Let's see if anyone's online. Gonna open chat so that I can look more easily. Let's see. Stream manager there. Wait, no, I don't want to. Okay, I was accidentally had my phone screen. My phone actually making the noise of a stream that I'm streaming, so I don't know. I don't want to know what that sounded like. Try to. Let's see. I'm gonna wait for someone to actually save her in chat so that I'm not just talking to no one. Still no one there? Okay. Gonna look at OBS for a second. Okay. Let's see. Just currently trying to get that word out a little more that I'm streaming. Oh, the poll that so I did a poll in, I don't think anyone's here right now, but I did a poll in my Discord asking if this was a good idea, and it just ended. Literally everybody voted yes. So hopefully, I don't know, hopefully someone should be hearing this soon. Okay, is anyone here yet? I think so far it's just me and Stream Elements. Well, hopefully that should change quite soon. Okay, is anyone here in chat? I can wait a little. Let's see. I'm just posting a link on a few places I'm allowed to do so in, just to, you know, get a little more attention here. Okay. Yeah, I think everything's pretty much set up for both the stream I did before I started streaming and, you know, getting it out there that I started afterwards. Just have to see if anyone's gonna be online. So for a little context, because, you know, I imagine that a few people are going to be watching this after the stream is done. This is a campaign I played starting in Crusader Kings Free in the Duchy of Manding. I'm gonna actually open Victoria Free. I started in the Duchy of Manding around here. I formed the Empire of Mali, and I basically expanded north until I got basically all of Western Europe. For the most part, at least. Then I continued, and I also defeated 2 crusades and dismantled the papacy. Then I continued in EU4, didn't really do much aside from some colonization. And then I continued that in Victoria Free, in which I repeatedly fought the Byzantines. And, you know, made my borders a little nicer over here, which... Yeah, the reason I have Germany is basically because I had the Holy Roman Empire by the end of the EU4 section. I had 0 imperial authority, but I decided I should represent it in some manner by making the remaining German states in the HRE my puppets. Which, as you can see... So for people watching this later, at least you have that extra context. My capital during the Crusader Kings Free section of it was first Niani, but then near the end, I moved to a more central location in Cordova. Then I transferred it to EU4, and because the English Channel has overpowered our trade, I moved it from Cordova to London. Okay, my game crashed. Okay, no matter, I'm just gonna open it again. I hate when it does that. I'm just gonna type it in chat. And as you can see, I also have, you know, a giant spreadsheet. So, like, that's a thing. Okay, that should clear things up a little bit. Streaming is complicated, though. There's so much stuff in OBS that I have to get together. I'm gonna see if there's anywhere else I could, you know, get this out there. Okay. The game finally loaded again. So... actually opening the game again. And there it is. Yeah, the game has my capital at Sikasso, because that's what it decided the capital of Eastern Mali was. Personally, I like the headcanon that it's Gen for multiple reasons. Like, first of all, like, where is it? First of all, somewhere around here is the Great Mosque. Oh yeah, there it is. The Great Mosque of Gen. It's in Gen. The capital should probably be in Gen. And also, I like water, and Gen is on a river. The Niger River. So, there's that. Which is why I headcanon that the capital is actually in Gen. Just a headcanon. The faith I had in the playthrough was basically a custom faith I created early on in Crusader Kings 3. It had natural primitivism as a tenet. It had polyamory as a tenet, and it had legalism. It accepted basically everything, because, of course, it did. I always do that. My dynasty had a witch coven for, you know, basically that reason. Because it was actually a thing in the faith. So yeah. Theoretically, the faith was part of the Islamic religion. I should probably call it... like, the religion itself is probably better referred to as Islamic rather than Muslim. And I feel like referring to individual people would be more... It doesn't make a difference. And from this context. You get the idea. Either way, it was theoretically speaking an Islamic faith, but obviously there's a lot of differences with real life religion, so keep that in mind. These borders are terrible, though. Like, it is so hard to it is a little weird memorizing exactly what islands I do and don't have. In the Eastern Caribbean, especially. I'm gonna see if I could... I'm gonna see if I could find somewhere where I could get this out there again. Stream, I mean. Still no one online, huh? there's gotta be someone here at some point, at least. Still no one... It's kind of ironic, because I did have a poll on my Discord server asking if this was a good idea very shortly before I started streaming, and a lot of people said it was a good idea, so, like, kind of surprised that it's so quiet right now. It is surprising it's so quiet, but eh. I guess I'm gonna have some streams like this. But I don't want to bore everyone who's watching later on YouTube. Like, because there's definitely going to be some people. So... some of the other map modes, I guess. Oh god, don't crash again. Okay. I thought the game was going to crash again. First of all... I'm going to look at Country Attitude. I never really look at this map mode much. And I guess there's a reason I don't. Because, apparently, most of the world hates me. Okay. Yeah, I did mention before that the Byzantines fought me in multiple wars. Yeah. I won or tied them in every war I fought against the Byzantines, until they finally had their own civil war. But, like, relations are so chilly. Oh, what are country relations? Oh! Okay, the actual relations, as opposed to the attitude, are actually better for the Byzantines than, most of the world. That's interesting. And there was a cultures overview. Which, okay, there's some weird stuff about this. Like, interesting place for French. Interesting complete replacement for Irish. So that's an interesting place for Scotland. It's an interesting place for North Italian. Croatian existing is interesting. Yeah, there's... it's a... like, Europe is most obviously weird, because, like, the Americas, you kind of expected to just get colonized. I don't know, okay, Africa's a little... I guess Africa's got a lot going on. Because my culture is spread, like, everywhere. So, yeah. So that's interesting. Global GDP! Yeah, my capital city is... well, as mentioned before, it's a little complicated, but the capital state, at least, is Eastern Mali, and... yeah. That's the largest in the world. So that's something. Infamy. I guess this is why I'm so hated. I did a lot of colonization in the Victoria Free section of, you know, this area of Africa, which I didn't already have, and, like... Yeah, that kind of hurt my relations with basically everyone. Wow, the only other country that has any infamy is Poland? How did that happen? Okay, what's next? Literacy! This went well. Literacy is very me-centric, I feel. As you can probably see. I did have insane... Oh yeah, like, okay, my country's literacy is 88.9%. That's pretty good for Victoria Free, I think. I did have a lot of education and stuff in the bureaucracy thing. I don't play this game all that much. More than most games, but still not as much as, like, Crusader Kings. What's next? Oh, Loyalists! Oh yeah. My nation's actually pretty stable, surprisingly. And I guess I might as well look at Radicals, too. Yeah. I said it was stable. Meanwhile, there's obvious industrialist revolution trying to enact the Council Republic, because that makes total sense. It's not gonna get to 100, though, because the radicalism's not high enough. What else is there? Markets! Yeah, this is very similar to the country's point of view, except with a lot more China. And a lot more Poland, too. Because Poland's in a customs union with Denmark. What about migration? Oh. I guess this is an area where I'm not doing as well in. My immigration attraction seems to be pretty low for, like, almost everywhere. But hey, Hausaland's good. And Congo's decent. Guess I was just focusing on those areas a lot with my building recently. Oh, hi! Good to see you here. I was just going through, you know, stuff about this... about the mega campaign that I'm obsessed with. That I started in Crusader Kings Free and continued all the way up until Victoria Free. I have the actual Victoria Free game ready for this. It also, if I turn it off, I also have a spreadsheet, which shows the GDP, population, all that stuff about every nation in the world, and, you know, what is it? What is this doing? Why is this just showing numbers? Okay, just give a normal number. Okay, that should be better. Yeah, I put a lot of effort into this. So yeah, I have this whole spreadsheet of GDP, population, percent of the world for both, and GDP per capita. So that's the whole thing. And I also have a second spreadsheet for every religion in the world and some stuff about it. And so that's the whole thing. Like, oh, why is the religion spreadsheet so big? Because, one, there's a lot of religions in the world that actually exist. I looked at every single nation to make sure I missed nothing. And, in addition, I looked at the numbers for every single population type in the game to make sure it was totally thorough. So, yeah. As you can see, the two different spreadsheets have different estimates for the total population of the world. And there's a reason for that. It's because... Let me turn the actual game back on again. If you look at some of the stats in here, it'll just say stuff like 1.59 billion. It doesn't say the exact number, it just gives it a round, like, not even rounded, just truncated. So it's like, so I can't really get exact numbers. But I did my best. Also, hi. I also was also looking through different map modes. Like, the most obvious is obviously countries at peace, because I am at peace at the moment. Country attitude looks kind of bleak. Country relations also looks relatively bleak. And yeah, I am back to streaming. Cultures overview. Cultures overview is a little weird. Like, it's most obviously weird in parts of Europe, for me at least. I mean, other than my culture being basically everywhere. Some notable things about it are, Scottish is down there, French is up there, and lost a lot of this territory. Irish doesn't even exist anymore, it's just Hiberno English. Italy just took over parts of the Balkans. I don't know what's going on with Bulgarian up in Ukraine. The Americas, though, you kind of expect to get colonized. The Americas were previously colonized mostly by Sweden and Denmark, so it's very Scandinavian. Essentially, the story of my nation, though, is I started around here, in Mali. I formed the empire before too long. I expanded north until I conquered lots of Western Europe. I at the same time faced 2 crusades for England against the Catholics, both which I won. And then I just dismantled the papacy, because if you're gonna crusade me twice, you just lost your pope privileges. I think we're gonna agree on that. Hi. Later in the EU4 section, I became the Holy Roman Emperor, banned slavery, and casually colonized a few of my own places, along with Sweden and Denmark. And a little bit of Rome, actually. Which, let's be honest, Byzantium's a Roman Empire. Then in the Victoria Free section, I fought Byzantium repeatedly, until I finally had some territory they'd taken in northeastern Italy. And then Byzantium just had a civil war. And I also, in the Victoria Free section, colonized some areas around here, increasing my dominance over Africa. Some other, and also, what's also notable is that I did have my own custom faith from Crusader Kings Free. Theoretically, an Islamic faith, but very different from real-world ones. It had the natural primitivism, polyamory, and legalism tenets, and it had basically everything accepted. Theoretically, I chose no head of faith because I wanted theocratic vassals, but I kind of headcanon that I'm the head of faith, so I kind of headcanon that my nation's rulers are the caliphs. Similarly, my capital right now is theoretically Sikasso, because, you know, capital state is Eastern Mali, but I headcanon that it's Gen, because, let's be honest, the Mosque of Gen is the most important building in the state. Why wouldn't my capital be in Gen? And in addition, it's on a river, and I like rivers. What's next? Oh yeah, I went over country attitude and country relations. There's a reason for that. There's a reason why everyone hates me. And it's because my infamy is kind of terrible. From all those times where I was colonizing and the Byzantines just decided to back up, and I was colonizing all Africa, the Byzantines just repeatedly decided to back up the native tribes, and I guess it doesn't really make a difference that the Byzantines backed him up, because they would have gotten me into me either way, but... Well, I did also conquer Byzantine territory. Yeah, there's a ton of border gore. Like, take note of the borders between New Granada and New Sweden, which New Granada is basically Viceroy's version of New York, instead of its historical location in Colombia. Also, the Caribbean... Well, Caribbean being a mess is kind of normal, I guess. My African borders are wild. It just happened to be that way. Byzantium and Poland. Poland just has an arm punching into Byzantium. Rajputana, I don't know what's going on with that. Ming should not have that giant chunk of Siberia. But it doesn't even border the rest of Ming. So yeah, there's a lot going on. I missed whatever was deleted, but I kinda don't want to know. What's next? Global GDP. I had the largest provinces, I had the largest states, I mean. Technically states. The largest being my capital, Eastern Mali. Also of notable sides, like everything in the area of Eastern Mali almost. At least to its west. Also the Congo. Also Hausaland. Also a bunch of things in Germany. Got Campania, Sicily, Western Andalusia, home counties. Those are all pretty big. Let's see. I'm gonna look at literacy next, because I'm proud of what I did with literacy. Like, the most literate places on the map are very clearly mine. And, I mean, if you look at politics, and you look at, actually, institutions, yeah, in particular, education being at level 5 helped with that. I also had a lot of stuff at level 5. Hey, thanks. I also had some pretty good laws. As you can see, I was a cooperative ownership monarchy, because there's a whole story behind that. Essentially, in Crusader Kings 3, I had the collective lands tenet, so I figured I should start with a cooperative ownership law in Victoria Free. But I was also obviously a monarchy, so I just casually have both of those at the same time. Which is weird. And I never really got rid of either one. I didn't get rid of cooperative ownership because, no point in getting rid of it. It seemed to work well. And monarchy I didn't get rid of because I've been playing this dynasty for nearly a millennium. I got attached to it. What else is there? Here's the loyalist. I have a lot of loyalists, and similarly I have a lot of radicals. I guess I'm very divisive. Markets. Markets is just similar to regular countries map mode, except Poland gets the entire Danish Empire in its market. And Ming just has a lot. Like, the Ming market just includes, like, half of Asia. What can I say? The China did well this game. And migration. Migration I'm doing pretty terribly in, because I guess I kind of have a tendency to focus the government spending on, like, certain areas at a time, and I guess recently it was Hausaland and kind of Congo. So yeah, there's unemployment that's hurting a lot of a lot of my territories, combined with, in some cases, some turmoil. I'll admit that. And a military, I don't know what this map mode actually does. National GDP. That's gonna be the same as global GDP, really. Population. I mean, it probably shouldn't be a surprise that India and China have a lot of people. I mean, it's India and China. Of course they have a lot of people. I think the most populous in the world is Eastern Mali, though. When we go into the ledger, sort by population... Oh, no, I was wrong. Eastern Mali is the 5th most populous, but whatever, it's the highest... If we look at the global GDP, it's the highest GDP, and that's, to me at least, it's more important. And standard of living. I think I did pretty well with standard of living. Ignore the border between France and Germany. Ignore that. That doesn't exist. I did pretty well. States, I'm not really sure what to make of this map mode. And strategic regions is, you know, the same in every Victoria free playthrough. At least in the same. At least if it's in the same, you know, update. If I look in government, I have an illegitimate government because I am unwilling to change my... Because right now I am unwilling to change who's in power. Because the fascist party won, and I have too much pride to let them have any power. Oh, there's no war going on between Germany and France at all. There's, like, I own both. I just really didn't upgrade buildings in those areas much. For some reason. I guess it's just with France I was like, oh, this is France. And with Germany I was just like, oh, this is Germany. And I didn't think to get Alsace-Lorraine in this area here. So, I'm gonna briefly switch back to the Excel sheets. First of all, with GDP, like, if we look at me and my subjects that I would count as part of my empire, I had nearly 40% GDP, so that's nice. And, like, a 5th of the world's population, so that's something. I think I did pretty well. Realistically, the big 5 powers in the game... I'm gonna switch back to the actual game. The big 5 powers are very clear. Here's me, Byzantium, Poland, Denmark, and Ming. Those are basically the big 5. Me, because I have a giant GDP. And population too, I guess. Byzantium also had a giant GDP. Poland had a giant GDP and personal union over Sweden, which is also giant. Denmark just had a lot of big colonies, some very prosperous. And Ming not only has a giant GDP, due to its giant population, but also has some level of influence over, like, half of Asia. So, like, yeah. A lot of the places in the Americas say they're Swedish because, you know, they were Swedish colonies. But literally all of them gained independence, so there goes that. Swedish Louisiana, independent. Swedish Peru, independent. Swedish La Plata, independent. Swedish Brazil, independent, while normal Brazil isn't. Because normal Brazil is my colony. They just don't change their names in Victoria Free after they gain independence. So we got that weirdness going on. And Swedish Louisiana... Yeah, Swedish Louisiana has interesting borders, to say the least. It's got the general New Orleans area and a bit to the east. It's got a little bit of completely disconnected areas to the north of that. And then this giant disconnected landmass to the north of that. Then another disconnected exclave to the north of that. Like, I don't know how they're supposed to defend that. Like, I'll bet if I look at the GDP for that, it's gonna be... Yeah, it's a lot lower in the areas that are disconnected. Actually, no. It's lower everywhere. Actually, no, it's lower in these areas, because, yeah, technically their capital is actually in Iowa. Yeah, so it's actually these areas and this that are disconnected. And, I guess, this and this, if you don't count the lakes. Honestly, funny thing, all the former Swedish colonies there were all basically nearly the same shade of blue. So, once I gained independence after I finished the game, I ended up realizing I had to, like, go into the game mod files and change their colors so that you could actually tell them apart. And what made matters worse is that Ethiopia and its colony in Western Australia were a similar color, which, like, I had to change the colors in the game files. So, which is why you have these slightly different shades of blue. California being the most different of the former Swedish colonies. Also, I'm gonna actually turn the spreadsheet on again, because I want to point at the religious map mode. Like, there's all this data here. I think I want to draw... How visible is this? I think this is okay, visibility. I want to draw attention to what's basically the biggest ones. Like, if you look at percent of the world... Why is this... No, wait. I messed up a percentage of the world when copying this over, didn't I? Okay, just turn the percentage thing off. No, actually, no, I had to turn it on. Okay, so, now that it's actually readable, the largest of these is obviously the... Oh, wait, that's just Christian total. Yeah, I can look at the totals in here. The largest in here is... Actually, wait. Oh, that's... No, that's just... That's not a specific one, that's just Buddhist total. Yeah, the largest specific faith in here is Catholic Christianity. Mainly because, even though I dismantled the papacy, it still existed in... basically in Scandinavia, and Scandinavia colonized basically half the Americas. So Catholicism's the biggest. But, in second place is my faith. So that's something. And also, Orthodox Christianity is also a big deal. There's a lot of Mahayana Buddhists. Those are really the big ones. Well, there's also a lot of Hindus. It's like very common religion. I also included the main population centers for every faith in the game. So that's something. Wait, why didn't I include any for this one? Oh, because that's just a total of the Islamic religion. Never mind. I'm going to turn on the game again. Oh, how come you're surprised at Poland? Like, Poland actually did do really well. Like, there's Poland itself, there's Sweden, which includes a big chunk of Denmark and most of Norway. They lost the Swedish colonies, but they also have a colony in South Africa, technically part of Poland itself, but you get the idea. They have Iran, parts of India, a subject in Tamilcan. They have, like, Poland and Sweden also have just, I don't know what they're doing in Indonesia. It's just a lot of border gore. And they have parts of Australia. And we're in a custom scene of New Denmark, so they've got friends in the good places. And Denmark's also powerful. I see. I see. So Poland's usually destroyed quickly? Yeah, not this time. Poland is, like, one of the biggest world powers over me. I'm gonna remind myself what the capital is. Warsaw. Yeah, I should have seen that coming. Also, now is when the weird parts of the game now is when the weird parts of the game come in. If you look at the tiny nation having a civil war here, it is Lebanon. And if you know anything about Lebanon, it does not belong there. Okay, the game crashed. I'm gonna open it again. This is the second time this stream it has crashed. Oh, I'm actually, once I start the game again, I'm gonna look at what Poland is. But I don't think it's what you're hoping for. I don't think it's a democracy. At least not fully. It is Catholic. I remember that. Poland is like the strongest Catholic force on the map. Which I guess doesn't say much, but something. While the game is opening, I guess I might as well look back at the GDP stuff. Byzantium had like 16% of the world GDP. Poland and its notable subjects included like 14%. Ming and its notable subjects like 9%. And Denmark and its subjects had like 7%. So yeah, they're all pretty big. So yeah. Game is still loading. Like, I like that I made this giant GDP thing. But I also don't know how much to talk about it compared to, like, the actual game being open itself. You could note that the smallest GDPs in the world, including this one random country that casually... Oh wait, the game opened. Yeah, there is this one random country that basically had a GDP of about 5 million, while having no land. No, not a GDP of 5, but like a population of 5 million, sorry. While having 0 land. I don't know where that population is. It just exists. I'm actually gonna load the game now. This specific game, this specific save file, has a really bad habit of crashing 24/7. There is no song playing in the background. Is there? I turned the music off. Also, I'm gonna look at Discord. But yeah. I'm gonna try to focus on the stream mostly, though. So yeah. Aside from Lebanon being in Tunisia for whatever reason... Don't tell me it's crashing again! It crashed again. Aside from Lebanon being in Tunisia for whatever reason, it probably just some weird thing with a converter, you're gonna see where Palestine's located. It's also in a weird place. But yeah. I'm gonna look at the religion spreadsheet. Typically, previously I had the GDP population one and the religions one at separate saves in Excel. I merged them together specifically for this stream to make it easier. You'll notice that I measured the percentage of academics each religion was, and the academics per capita. Like, and if you look at... I gotta turn this into actual percentages again. It's so much easier to read when it's actually written as percentages. Yeah, out of all the specific faiths, not just with totals, I had 29%, so I had the biggest percentage. But, in terms of per capita, there was actually, if I remember correctly, a lot of Orthodox. It's not visible. The difference is not really visible here, but like, there were actually a lot of Orthodox academics. And the reason I measured this is to see just which religions were having the biggest impact on, you know, academic stuff. But that's what led me to another thing I noticed about the campaign, which, oh, good timing, it finally loaded. So, what I noticed when looking at the population is that when I was looking at academics, and indeed most types of pops, in the other countries, like half of them were jobless. Meanwhile, my employment was insane. Like, if I look at Byzantium, like, let's just look at Eastern Thrace, which is not the capital anymore. They actually moved it to southern Serbia. During the Civil War, actually, it happened. But if you look at... well, if you look at... well, it says he employed only on 133,000. But, like, at the very least, if you look at academics, workforce is only, like, 30%. And the dependents are, like, 70%. Well, if you look at my academics, like, for my entire country, because actually it's easier to do that here. Please don't crash. If you look at my academics, it's more 50-50. Oh, faiths that are big in the campaign but small or non-existent for real world? Let me just turn the game off and look at the Excel sheet. Let's see. First of all, there's my faith, which is the second biggest in the world, but doesn't actually exist at all in real life, because I made it up. Oh yeah, you said not counting that. Other than that, it's actually a decent number of E-bodies in the world. I don't know how many there is in real life, but I kinda doubt it's as many. Then again, it only says 1%, but that's not that many. I don't know. Oh yeah, a bigger deal is the Adamites, which are a full 4% in this world. Literally, a 25th of a population is Adamite. Mostly localized to Germany. And it's like... just... that wasn't even my fault. I wasn't even playing Adamite. They're just casually 4% of the world. The Cathars don't make up that many people, but the fact that they exist at all is weird. I mean, not that I have a problem with it. I respect all religions, but, like, you get the idea. Let's see. The Inti faith has a surprising number of people. Let's see. And, oh! The Aztecs still have their faith. even though, you know, it's not actually, they don't actually have the next event there anymore. I guess 1% is still a lot. Totemism is relatively big. Tengriism is really big, still. So yeah, there's some major differences. And I'm gonna turn on the actual game again. Especially since I hinted at Palestine being in a weird place before, it's about time I actually pointed out. It's right here. It's in western Iran. It's probably a converter thing, just like Lebanon. Oh, you might also notice that Kurdistan is in Iran for, like, this part of Iran for literally no reason that I know of. Again, it's probably because of a converter. Oh, yeah, Armenia exists in almost the same place it does IRL. And a game crashed! This is kind of a disaster, but, you know, this is fine. The game is just crashing occasionally. I'm noticing that Judaism is a lot rarer in this game than it is in real life. Which is probably normal for Crusader Kings starting playthroughs, because, like... I mean, theoretically, if you start in 867, there's still the massive Empire of Khazaria. But I started in 1066, so there was almost nothing. Thing that has that faith. Oh, why Poland owns Iran? I don't know, they just conquered it at one point. Oh yeah, I forgot to check what government Poland had. I'll check. I remember it wasn't great. At least by my standards. I think by most people's standards. I'll check when the game's, again, up and running. But yeah. It is interesting to note just what professions, like what groups each of the religions are, like, have a lot of population in. I worded that very strangely. Like, you might notice that I had not many upper strata population in my faith, but that makes sense because I was a cooperative ownership empire. And, you know, my colonies are also cooperative ownership. Okay, the game should be on right now. I'm gonna load the save file again. Again. Okay, so if I carefully zoom out, Poland. Politics. Oh yeah, the government is the landowners. It's an autocratic monarchy, so that's a good start. Also, no health system, so that's fun. What interest group is supporting the no health system? The industrialist, of course, the industrialist. Oh, and gender equality is basically not a thing. So yeah, Poland is interesting here. And, worse yet, apparently you can't get out. So, yeah. I can kind of see why they have investment level 5 in law enforcement, though. So with those laws, I imagine at least a 32% industrialist. I can see how that might be an issue. Because industrialists are going to disagree with a lot of that, at least. Oh, interesting thing in this game. If you look at Brazil, it's dominated by the trade unions, right? Yeah, the trade unions, which are proletarian and egalitarian, are part of a party called the Fascist Party. I find that strange. Like, this is... Like, look, this ideology is basically actual socialist. There is no reason to be calling it fascist, even in just name. It's just a weird game. And if you look at my parties, I also have one of that name, but it's like actually a little more fitting. It's, you know, it's actually a little more fitting, and there's a reason I intentionally kept it out of power. Let's be honest, any traditionalist, I'm probably going to want to keep out of power. I'm noticing the rural folk and the armed forces both want to join the Communist Party, but I'm really not in a position to reform the government. What if I... Is there a way I could do so without including... What would happen if I actually did this? It gets worse. Okay, so I'm not in position to do that. What if I did this and then kicked out the intelligentsia? What would happen then? It still makes things worse, okay. I'm not... Yeah, if I had continued this game, I would not be in position. Okay. On your comment on fascism being more socialist and capitalist, I'm gonna have to... I am a little skeptical about that, from my knowledge. I mean, at the very least, it's not what Brazil is doing. Because Brazil straight up strongly like the fascist party in Brazil in this playthrough is straight up promoting cooperative ownership. That's completely different from whatever historical garbage, evil, real fascists were doing in real life. Completely different. And also, you know, there's the obvious fact that egalitarian, completely different than real-life fascist parties. Actual fascism is obviously not egalitarian. You get the idea. But yeah, so that's just a weird fact about Brazil. New Granada, or basically less New Granada and more New York, is apparently ruled by the rural folk. It's interesting. Oh, pacifist! I guess they might have a problem with my notoriety. And I also had a colony in Cuba, which only actually ruled like half of actual Cuba, which is also ruled by the rural folk. Interesting. Oh, they're anarchists. That's interesting. I never noticed that. Oh yeah, you said it economically, that's fair. Anyway, what else is interesting about this world? Well, you might notice that Bornu is just a casual native tribe. They should be around here, realistically. But they previously had a big empire in EU4, but I just colonized almost all of it. So now they're just stuck out over here, in the Sahara Desert. Impassable territory largely as well. But you also may notice that they have islands on the other side of the world in eastern Micronesia. How they govern that? From a landlocked power base? Don't ask me. they probably don't govern it very well. Because how could you? Another consequence of colonization is that Congo is localized to Andaman Islands, while it should be over here. So, that's what happens when I use the Eurocentrism option in the converter to make things easier on me. You might notice that Ethiopia is giant, and I was actually really proud of it, because even back in CK3, they had a massive empire. But their economy kind of just died in Victoria Free, and like, if you look at the actual rankings, very insignificant power. With all that land. It's kind of sad. On a purely economic level, they're kind of like this world's version of Russia. Except without the military fearsomeness. I was so proud of Ethiopia, too, earlier in the campaign. See, they were doing so well, and now they're not. Another thing you might notice, Arabia looks pretty normal, right? Well, if you look at the capital... Yeah. For some reason, their capital is just over in Indonesia. I don't know why. I know why the Byzantines have a capital in... I know why the Byzantines have a capital in Kosovo. They have a capital in Kosovo because they fought a civil war, and I'm assuming the side that won was based in Kosovo. But Arabia? I don't know, if I had the same explanation for Arabia, it would be a little weird. Because, like, I mean, maybe it's the same thing, I don't know. Okay, actually, fair. Fair about not talking about that. Let's see, what else? What else is in this playthrough that's just bizarre? There's the notable fact that the Danish colony of Texas casually owns most of Mexico, and regular Mexico is just, like, there, I guess. Oh, and its capital is not even in Mexico, it's in... Oh, the game crashed again. I'll open it again. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, like, I was thinking Russia is kind of militarily scary because they have nukes, but realistically, no one's using them, because if you do, the world ends. And if actively proving they're not actually capable of much without them. That's beside the point, though. I guess it just makes the point even more that this world's version of Russia is Ethiopia. If I wanted to, I really could have attacked... I could have probably attacked Ethiopia and gotten a good deal of land out of it. I didn't really want to, though. I don't know, Ethiopia did so well in Crusader Kings 3, but I've just been proud of them. So even though they're doing a lot worse in Victoria 3, I don't know, I'm still kind of proud. Which is kind of why I made sure to be on good terms with Ethiopia. Anyway, while the spreadsheets are up, going back to GDP and population, I guess. Honestly, it's impressive how well Danish Louisiana just casually did. Danish Louisiana, and Grand Columbia too, are both, and Texas, as free Danish colonies of a higher GDP than Denmark itself. Okay, I have a game stack open. This one doesn't crash too soon. Okay. Also, Minsk has an interesting story. At the end of a Crusader Kings Free section, I just casually had that territory for whatever reason. Some inheritance stuff, I guess. So I just kept it for EU4 section. Eventually made it into a client state. Then in Victoria 3, they just had a civil war, and since we're surrounded by Poland and Byzantium, I couldn't help them. And my client state lost the civil war. So that was the only territory I lost. Because I straight up could not do anything. They still have my faith, though. That's something. Thank God for a Soviet Republic. It's kind of funny. Like, in that case, it might as well just stay with me. Also, on the Ethiopia note, they have come far, but they admittedly did start with, like, the Fatimid Caliphate in 1066, which is a relatively powerful start. But, on the other hand, I played the CK3 section of this in 1.6, so for any AI to do well in 1.6 is impressive. So, putting that out there. Even if they're the Fatimids. If you look at the information, the ruler is part of the Arseniacid house. That's technically a branch of the Fatimids that formed, so it's still the Fatimids. They lost the Caliphate at some point, though. Also, oh my god, it is so weird that Ming has this territory here. It's completely landlocked. And this basically is too. Oh, that's a Kipchak's, not Ming directly, but you get the idea. This map looks so much weirder if it's just this one battle while interrupting it. Just casual uprising that Texas is fighting. And surprisingly seems to be losing. Oh yeah, Mexico has these two little areas up there. That's interesting. So yeah. What's my budget again? Oh, I had normal taxes, that's good. And a few consumption taxes. I have a feeling I just generally raised consumption taxes on other than services. I feel like it was just things I kind of disagreed with. Based on what it is now. Oh well. Yeah, the government and military wages are pretty normal. I probably could have gotten away with very high military wages, though. And probably could have gotten away with very high government wages, too. Might have... Actually, no. I'm not even using all... Not enough the government. Not really the government wages. Because, like, I was already taking a break from using all my construction because I am bad at managing my budget. Oh yeah, I mentioned this before, but Ethiopia has Western Australia as a colony. That's a thing that exists. And Arabia has a trade port in Taipei. Don't tell me it crashed. It crashed again! I didn't even zoom in too fast, did I? I don't know why it's this one save file that crashes all the time. It's just this one. GDP. The highest GDP in per capita in the world is actually one of my vassals, with about 7 pence. Or, no, it's not pence, it's pounds. About 7 pounds per capita. Which, let's be real, that's not very good in real life today, but in the game it's pretty good. I guess the save file being big is an issue. You know what it is, probably? I tend to play with merging pops being off. Which, the game warns, is bad in the mid to late game. That's probably why the game is crashing. Because I did play for, like, over 100 years. But hey, I'm willing to put up with it if it means, you know, more accuracy. Honestly, that one subject of mine from the Holy Roman Empire... Like, okay, the thing is, I had all those subjects in Germany because in Crusader Kings 3 I had the Holy Roman Empire, and even though I had, like, no imperial authority, literally none, I wanted to represent it somehow, so I just made the entire Holy Roman Empire my puppets in Victoria Free. And the reason I depicted the Holy Roman Empire having its normal mechanics in EU4 was because it was pretty much dying in Crusader Kings 3, so it seemed realistic. Well, the game's up again. There's still more fun facts about this world, though, that I haven't been gotten into. It's just such a weird game. Mega campaigns will do that. Like, first of all, it's hardly first, but next... France. France, a decentralized power. Government chiefdom. Just gonna let you sink that in for a minute. France is a tribe in the Amazon. And the reason for that, the reason why France is a tribe at the Amazon, is because I converted this game from EU4 to Victoria Free. And this part of French Guyana is Wasteland, so I guess the converter just decided, hey, it's French in normal Victoria Free, let's just make it French, and literally nothing else in the conversion. And since it was a wasteland, now we're a decentralized power. And the funny thing is, in Crusader Kings 3, I actively had the Kingdom of France as my vassal, and the Empire of Francia as my title. So, like, they couldn't have given it to me. And looking at Brazil, it wouldn't have, like, if Brazil owned, if I'd given that to Brazil, it would look nice on the map. Only very slightly worse than it is now. And considering the rest of the map, I don't think a little extra border was a big deal. I still can't get over how the industrialists are trying to enact Council Republic. You don't see the industrialists push for workers' rights that often in Victoria Free. Especially since it's something that gives the trade unions political strength. Surely there's options they'd like more, but nope! I mean, there are options they like more, but not pushing for them for some reason. I was trying to improve relations near the end with both New Sweden and Ethiopia. Ethiopia because, you know, they did so uncrusading things and I was proud. And New Sweden because... Well, let's look at this. Let's look at these borders between New Granada and New Sweden. I think you can imagine me possibly wanting a customs union. I don't have one, but I wanted one. And I think those borders kind of say why. Another thing that I looked at in this save file that has been interesting is what the worst places to be in the world are. First of all, the Lingit tribe has the lowest standard of living on the planet. So, yeah. And if you look at their only state, literally, it's the slaves that are the best off, which is weird. Everyone else is... Well, everyone's starving, but everyone else is starving harder than them. So, like... That's... I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, they have, they straight up have the lowest standard of living on the planet. Which probably has something to do with the fact that Swedish Cascadia is actively colonizing them. However, the highest death rate in the world is Kurdistan. Which, if you look at their only province, or I mean only state, I guess. Well, first of all, our standard of living is still pretty low. But if you look at the population of our state, 8.3% mortality. And if you look at why, there's somewhere in here there's a famine. Yeah, 50% from Great Famine. 8.3% mortality, that's pretty bad. And if you look at Lingit, it's... If you look at Lingit's only state, it's like... If you look at their mortality, it's like 7.8, which is close to as bad, but not as bad. And the other places in the world that just came off as not the best to live in was, very weirdly, Norway. Its only state is an impassable thing, an impassable province, state. Their only state is just completely impassable. Mortality 7.4%. Standard of living 3.6%, so it's higher than Lingit, but still pretty bad. And if you look at their market, clothing just doesn't exist. The buying orders of clothing is 0.24 because, you know, they have people that need it. But they produce literally no clothing. So, like, take that as you will. And also there is another area that's completely impassable. Yeah, there is Aiden. Just totally in Socotra and surrounding islands. Low standard of living, as you'd expect. And if you look at their only purely impassable province, high mortality rate, which I guess you kind of expect. And if you look at the market, they're producing no fine clothing for certain. And they're actually producing little clothing, so they're at least at an ori in that manner. I don't know, I just think it's funny that I just think the idea of living somewhere as cold as the Faroe Islands and having access to no protective clothing, that just sounds terrible. It's kind of weirdly amusing so long as it's not actually happening in real life. It's just, as long as it's just fiction, it's kind of amusing. It's gotta be freezing there. You know, at least the winter is gonna be freezing. I mean, come on, Faroe Islands during winter, you kinda want to bundle up a little bit. So yeah, I'm curious what Iraq's capital is. I'm curious if it's Baghdad or not. Oh, the game crashed. Well, I'm gonna take the time to explain why I ended at this specific time. I ended the game on the 1st of July, 1923. First of all, it was the 1st of July... Well, actually, I'm not going to say that first. The reason it was 1923 was because I had this idea... Like, I originally ended it, like, in 1912, I think. I originally ended it there, but I decided I'm going to extend it to 1923. And the reason for that was, like... I had the idea that... Like, I was thinking, like... What if people I know were born in this world? Where would they end up? And it's an interesting thought experiment. So I was like, okay, what if I just played it until the year it was at the moment, since it was 2023, it would just be 100 years before 1923. So it would be like a more one-to-one correspondence between what year it is in that campaign and what year it is in this campaign. It's a 100-year difference. So I was born in 1999 in real life. So in this world, I would have been born in 1899. And I ended it on July 1st, because, like, I extended it to 1923 in early July last year. So July 1st seemed like a very even place to end. Like, halfway through the year, at almost the same time, slightly before the time it was at the moment. It seemed fair. So yeah. Now to load the game again. Not this one. Oops. No, this one. Going into Hearts of Iron 4, I've had Hearts of Iron 4 continuation suggested to me in the past, but I have barely tried that game. I don't know that much about it. It would probably go terribly. And also, I'm very happy with how the game is right now. I got two different spreadsheets set up. I am very invested into the world as it is at the moment. If I continued it 100 years later through Hearts of Iron 4, and since Hearts of Iron 4 technically doesn't have an end date, I could do 100 years later, but like, if I did that, it would ruin the spreadsheets I have. they would be outdated. I don't know, I feel like Victoria Free is a really good place to end. Because it tracks a lot of stuff that I personally find important. And I feel like Crusader Kings Free is a good place to start at the same time. Because it includes a lot of places, a lot of things that I consider important, specifically custom faiths and cultures. And while I could start an Imperator and just do CK Free later, the Imperator to CK Free converter just never worked for me, so I always just start in CK Free with mega campaigns. You will notice that I had this little part of Panama because I wanted to build a canal. And I also have this little part of Egypt because I wanted to build a Suez Canal. And I did both. So, that's something. It's another advantage of being on good terms with Ethiopia. Because I needed to get the Suez Canal from someone. Or where I would build it, at least. And the Panama Canal was, I guess the rest of Panama is controlled by Texas. Which is interesting. Looking at my laws again, though, it's interesting. Monarchy, I've explained before that I started in Crusader Kings Free as a feudal monarchy. I'm attached to my dynasty. I've been playing it for over 800 years. I got attached, so I never changed it. Cooperative ownership. I had collective lands, so I figured it was fitting that I have cooperative ownership as well when I started Victoria Free. Since you can interpret it was roughly the same thing. Protected speech I introduced in Victoria Free because, you know, I wanted my nation to be progressive. I wanted it to be a good one. Universal suffrage is the same deal. Protectionism is because I started with it in Victoria Free, and with trade unions dominating my country, there is no way I was going to be able to change that. Workers' protections, because I mean, workers' protections is kind of the same deal as protected speech. Multiculturalism would have been the same deal, but I actually started with it in Victoria Free because I had xenophilic tradition in Crusader Kings Free, so I figured it's a natural progression. Graduated taxation, I don't really remember adding that, but it was probably the same deal as free speech and labor rights. And again, compulsory primary school, I'm not a piece of garbage. I'm a decent enough person to want to actually ban child labor. Total separation is a weird one, because I do headcanon that my rulers are still heads of the faith. But, like, I don't know. Like, I've been dominated by trade unions this whole time. And I can still headcanon that there's an important spot for my custom faith. Realistically, my country is in real life is the United States, and we theoretically have total separation. But I am not going to pretend we actually, in practice, don't vote based on preferences like a lot of the country. I mean, I definitely, like, I'm not saying me, I'm just saying a lot of people in my country in real life don't treat the United States like it's total separation, even though we theoretically are. So, like, for this nation to be the same, let's be honest, it's not too unrealistic. Colonial exploitation, I just started with it in Victoria Free, and I never changed it because I wanted more of Africa. And to be honest, of the two colonial options they had in this update, this is probably the less awful of the two. So, women's suffrage is again because I'm a decent person and I want my nation to be a decent nation. Although I guess I didn't apply that as much to the colonialism part, but you know, at least I actually built up the places I colonized. in Victoria free, at least. Not so much for EU4 places, but you get the idea. Appointed bureaucrats. That's an interesting one. That was strategic. Hereditary bureaucrats had stronger landowners. I don't want that. Elected bureaucrats is something, but although more petite bourgeoisie political strength was probably bad too. But the main reason I spoke of appointed bureaucrats is because of boosting intelligentsia, which are, let's be real, my favorite interest group. Because, let's be honest, I care about, like, just in general, as, like, just in general, what's the word I'm looking for? On principle, that's what I'm looking for. On principle, the people who know what we're talking about, and have actually studied academic stuff, are the people I would realistically trust most with policy. So I'm kind of biased to like the intelligentsia in-game as well. Especially since, realistically, we're going to be relatively progressive. Dedicated police force is just because, you know, I don't think I paid too much attention to the actual effects it had. It's just something that just seems like a reasonable idea in general. Old age pensions are, again, like, strategically, I'm realizing lately that it was probably a bad idea, but I don't know. I gotta have some form of social security investment, considering, again, it seemed like a good idea considering I wanted my people to be well off. I guess graduated taxation probably helped with that a lot, though. Professional army. Again, like the dedicated police force, just seemed like something that was a good idea. I didn't pay an exceptional amount of attention to the actual effects of it, I just kept a professional army because why wouldn't I? Public schools. I originally wanted private schools because it boosts the intelligentsia's political strength again, which I want. But the reason I changed to public schools probably had something to do with the education access. Because, you know, I care about education and all. Migration controls. I don't like this law. I would prefer no migration controls. But I've been dominated by the trade unions this entire game. There's no way I was changing it. Also, guaranteed liberties. That's again something that I did because you know, just to be reasonable and decent. Public health insurance. Public health insurance seemed like the best way to make sure my people don't die. On one level, it's kind of a decent person thing, but also it's probably strategic as well. And slavery banned, I don't think I need to explain why I did that. Because, like, obviously I'm going to ban slavery. For strategic and moral reasons at the same time. And going back to institutions, you know, institutions, I had a lot of investment. Everyone's educated, everyone's safe, law enforcement is powerful, home affairs, I kind of needed that because of all the radicals. Health system was as good as I can make it, so my people don't die. Social security I kept at level 1, because once I passed a social security law, I realized it was ridiculously expensive. So I didn't increase it anymore, because I don't want to spend more. And colonial affairs is at level 1. I'm pretty much past the idea where I really need it. Past the point where I really need it. So that's why I included all that stuff at that level. Okay, maybe public health... You can debate how well public health insurance works in real life. I'm neutral on it. But in-game, at least, the effects of it seem pretty reasonable. Like, just straight-up minus 20% mortality, that's not bad. Although, actually, I wonder if private health insurance would have been better in this case. 1.2% per wealth, so... What was my GDP per capita again? Like, basing it purely on GDP per capita is 5.53, so... I'm gonna open a calculator. 5.53 times 1.2. Yeah, it's actually a lot. Yeah, it's a lot worse. Public health insurance is a lot better in this case. Okay, but yeah, you can debate how well public and private health insurance works in real life. Again, I'm neutral. But in-game, at least, for my country at least, literally doing the math, not schools, health insurance, I literally just did the math, and public health insurance is like more than 3 times as effective. For my nation, at least. Gotta do what works in a game, at least sometimes. It's not entirely a realistic game. Because let's be honest, if it was realistic, then the old age pension in law would probably, or better yet, the Social Security institution would probably be a lot better if it was realistic to real life. But, like, it's not. So it is what it is. Swedish Brazil is really an interesting case. There's a capital again. Their capital is landlocked. So, and the rest of their territory is on the coast completely separated. So, I don't know how they handle that. Again, I probably don't have much means to. I really thought the game was going to crash again for a second. Let's see. If I look at the game rules... Huh. Like... Oh, I guess I didn't do the... I thought I included the rule to not have the pops merge, and I guess it didn't exist back then. Like I remembered wrong. Oh, another interesting thing I noticed. I'm not Spanish, so I can't really comment on this much, but the PSOE is led by the Devu. I've heard that's very strange. But I'm not Spanish, so I can't really... So I don't have much experience in that area. So look at my buildings. What did I have a lot of? I had a lot of textile mills, which is weird because my nation is theoretically nudist. So like, I have kind of struggled explaining why I have all the textile mills. Chemical plants there's a lot. Tooling workshops there's a ton of, probably because I need it for construction. There's a lot of motor industries. Urban centers. I guess my nation was pretty urban. Power plants I had a lot of. This was very necessary. Universities I had like nearly 700. Like government administration I had a lot too. Like, the fact that I had nearly 700 universities, I feel like that's a lot. And considering how much I've said about my preferences regarding education, it's probably no wonder I have so many universities. Like, no joke. In the EU4 section of this, if I remember correctly, I built a university in every province. And I had three different notable monuments, other than just a random skyscraper. The skyscraper kind of counts, I don't know. Other than that, I had the Eiffel Tower, Big Ben, and the coolest of all, the Mosque of Jen. I could have potentially built a Statue of Liberty, huh? Yeah, I guess I did own New York City. Don't tell me it's crashing. It crashed! I'm actually going to open the Crusader Kings save now. Just to... No, actually, no. Maybe I won't. So I could show you the culture and faith, but it would have to... It would mean going... I'm gonna do it. Actually, not gonna risk it, because I don't know what settings I have on. I'm just gonna open Victoria Free again. So I'm actually gonna open some of the records I have as to the history of... the history of my nation. Because I explained history before, but I kind of want to get a list of rulers, so that I can explain that. So... So first of all, my first ruler was Kanafa, who actually had an Indian culture, but I just started off in Mali because the idea behind the campaign was Mali has gold mines, Indian cultures have elephants. So what if which are expensive. So what if I built elephantry in West Africa? It's not possible, but I didn't realize it back then. I was testing to see what I could do with elephants with the mines of Mali. And it turned out to work actually really well. Because, as you can see, this playthrough went pretty well. And the Crusader Kings section was on Iron Man mode, too, so, like, especially well then. Back then, it was, like, the best game I've ever played of it. So yeah, it started with Kanafa and the Duchy of Manding. He had a lunatic trait, actually. I like using lunatic trait because it's fun and lowers the points of the rule designer, so I can keep it under 400. Kanafa was also the one who created the custom faith. The second ruler was Yajiyavadi, who is notable for forming Witch Coven? Because I had a Witch Coven for the house as well. Then was Sveta Varman, then was Suleiman, who formed the Empire of Mali, then Nayana Devi, the Impaler, then Lurpu, the Bloodmother, then Zvian the Scholar, who won the First Crusade against the Pope, then Dolo the Scholar, who won the Second Crusade, then Dawood the Scholar, a lot of scholars here, who dismantled the papacy, then Jajiga the Wise, the last one in the Crusader King section, who had a giant trait, interestingly enough. And it's under her rule that I moved the capital to Cordoba and switched the primary title to Spain. So then I switched to EU4. And while Jagia was still ruler, I moved the capital to London. And then I had Dolo II, then Dolo III, then Dawood II, then Dawood III, Dolo IV, Dolo V, Dawood VI, Dawood VII, and Dawood VIII. So it's the same two names repeated over and over again. By the end of it, I was a Holy Roman Emperor, I banned slavery, So yeah. And also by the end of the EU4 section, I was actually, again, insanely rich. I was insanely rich in the CK3 section because, you know, Mines of Mali and high development. It's gonna happen. But I was again insanely rich in EU4 because I guess I did a good job playing tall. Then I switched it to the Victoria Free section of the Mega Campaign. And Dawood the 8th was followed by a ruler called Srang? It's hard to pronounce, because, you know, I don't speak whatever language it's from. But he ruled for a while, and then there was a current ruler, Rupnoth the First. Let's see what I've been saying. Oh, coaching you at wars in CK3? That might be a bad idea because I'm not very good at wars in CK3. I'm good at preparing for wars. I'm not good at fighting them. And in particular, I'm bad at dealing with supply limit in Crusader Kings Free. Until I get men-at-arms without levies, and it's just like, I don't need to worry about supply limit because I don't have the biggest army, because I have just high-quality soldiers. But yeah. It is so weird seeing Sikasso as the capital, because I've just got it into my head that it's actually Gen, where the Great Mosque is. What else? What else can I go over? I do find it interesting that the Ming Dynasty never broke down. It often doesn't break down, but I don't know. It would have been more... I would have liked it better if it did, just to have a little variety. Whatever. It's not like they were my main enemy in the campaign, though. That was Byzantium, during the later parts of it. And the Pope during the early parts of it. Oof, yeah, if you have that much issue with war, maybe I could try to coach you at some point. I don't know. Byzantium having a little... I didn't notice at first Byzantium had a little colony in the middle of Texas. So yeah. Also, I'm gonna actually see if I can find the specific... I'm gonna see if I could get the specific screenshots from... I'm gonna at least look at the faith and culture I had in Crusader Kings Free. So yeah, the culture, first of all, since it's a little easier. Hold on. I'm actually gonna stream this. Like, I'm gonna switch turn off game capture, and switch the Excel scene from Excel itself to Photos app. It should work. Eventually. Yeah, it's not working, is it? It's blank. Okay, back to Excel. Back, turning a game on. I'm just gonna read what my culture was like. the culture I formed had egalitarian ethos, because, you know, it's most fitting for me. Amazigh heritage. Arabic language, I like to think Andalusi Arabic. Equal martial, of course. The aesthetics were just a combination of everything I combined, which was a lot. I had the traditions collective lands, which, as I stated, was the reason behind cooperative ownership. Xenophilic, which, as I stated, was the reason behind multiculturalism. I am musical theorist, because I love music, as you should probably know by now, if you've watched me for a while. I had refined poetry, tabletop warriors, lords of the elephant, charitable, and warriors by merit. And if you look at the faith, I had legalism, natural primitivism, polyamory as free tenets, equal gender, righteous, theocratic, and Zondaka head of faith, a thing, with no specific head of faith though. Even though I do still headcanon that my rulers were heads of faith, like as in caliphs, but like, yeah, but like, in the game itself I chose none, so that I could have theocratic, so that I could have theocratic vassals. Marriage type was polygamous, divorce always allowed. There was also unrestricted consanguine entity, because, you know, it's Crusader Kings. That's only the practical thing to do, and also, like, let's just start with, it's just a practical thing to do. Everything was accepted. Clerical functional was recruitment, because it seemed it's practical. Gender, either one. Clerical marriage allowed. Clerical appointment, temporal revocable, because, again, most convenient. Okay, looking at chat again. Oh yeah, the map? Okay. The map is very interesting. The map... Oh my god, the map is weird in some places. What's the most literate part of the world, anyway? Alsace-Lorraine. Considering how poor Alsace-Lorraine is, that is a surprise. Is that the most... How? I completely neglected Alsace-Lorraine. How is it the most literate part of the world? Never noticed that. And also, about the Bohemia comment... Oof. I don't know what else to say. Oh yeah, Central Asia. Looking at Central Asia, it does look like someone splashed paint on it. Other than Ladakh casually having a civil war in the middle of it. I don't even want to know how many of my pronunciations have been butchered. Just by sheer virtue of me being an English speaker. What other countries have been weird places, though? I find it interesting that the capital of Swedish Louisiana is Iowa. It seems inconvenient, though. I mean, maybe it's convenient, I don't know. Because on the one hand, it's in the middle of a bigger part of the territory, so there's less that you can't get to. But on the other hand, having a little bit of coast would be nice. But then on the other hand, you got the Great Lakes. Oh, trust me, I had no intervention in Central Asia. I had nothing to do with this. Like, the furthest east I've gone is like this. Amhara. That's the furthest east I went. I had nothing to do with the Central Asia borders being terrible. I had a lot to do, on the other hand, with Germany being this. Not intentionally, it worked out, but it worked out that way, and it's, actually my territory. It just got really bad near the end of the Crusader King section before I noticed it, and I never really fully fixed it. But it's kind of fine, since, all of the things that make it messy are all my subjects now, so it works. What was really bad was, during the EU4 section, this whole area around Venice was just taken over by the Byzantines. That was bad. But I fought the Byzantines repeatedly in the Victoria Free section, because they kept intervening in my colonization, and eventually I just got all of it back. Previously, this was all mine. I needed to dismantle the papacy. First, the mainland areas, in part, were elected Holy Roman Emperor, and thus I lost them. Then when I was transferring into EU4, I lost Venice itself, because, I don't know, the conversion didn't do a good job. And it crashed. I'm gonna open a game again. So world population at this point in 1923 is roughly 2 billion. I'm gonna look up how much it was in real life. World population 1923. Yeah, I'm gonna have to... Oh yeah, it's actually... Looking it up on Wikipedia, it says in 1920 it was, just short of 2 billion. And in 1925 it was about 2 billion. So me between those dates having something on the order of 2 billion is actually, in the world, is actually really realistic. It's the only realistic part about this campaign, though. Close the tabs now. Okay, so I'm going to stop the stream for now because I have to feed my cats. I guess I could just take a break from it, but at the same time I also kind of don't know what else to talk about. So it would only take a few seconds to feed the cats, but at the same time I don't know what else to talk about. So is there anything in particular you're curious about before I go? Cat food? I don't know how to videotape feeding my cats on this stream. I really don't know how I'd do that. God, though, how long have I been streaming that it's already time to feed the cats? It's been 2 hours. Almost exactly. So, anyone curious about anything? Okay, hungry cats. Yeah, they are hungry. I really gotta stop the stream. I will see you all, I guess, in the next stream or something, or sooner than that for many of you.